Hey, well wishers and constructive critics, I presume your dear and near are hale and healthy. It's Professor Suresh altruistically enticed me back for my 46th video in pipeline for publication on YouTube today, 17th of July 2020, Friday. Topic for discussion today is racism and genocide, prime causes and effects. Racism is the belief of the natural superiority of one race over another. It may mean prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism against other people because they are of a different race or ethnicity. Racism can also be used to describe the social, legal, cultural, economic, and political processes that are a result of those beliefs. During the Holocaust, Nazis in Germany believed that some races did not even deserve to exist. These beliefs were racist. They killed so many Polish, Jews mainly. Because of those beliefs, they killed many people who belong to those races, Jews. Those actions which resulted from the racist beliefs were also racist. Racism has existed throughout human history. It has caused wars, slavery, creation of nations, and laws. However, racism has never been the only cause of wars and slavery. Leaders often used racism to make their actions seem alright. Humans often categorize themselves by race or ethnicity. They do this based on ancestry as well as visible traits like skin color and facial features. People of the same ethnic group are often connected to ancestry, speaking the same language, having the same culture, and living in the same places. However, scientists say that humans do not really fit well into these categories biologically. The DNA of people from different races is very similar. Evidence from genetics and archaeology suggests that all humans came from the same group of early humans in East Africa. This means that different races did not appear at different times. All humans came from the same race and separated into different races later. Because white people historically had more power, some people call racism against whites reverse racism. Racism existed in almost all countries. Apartheid is a system to institutionalize racial segregation. It existed in South Africa from 1948 till early 1990s. South African apartheid laws were a system was used to deny many rights of non-white people. They started in 1948. The laws allowed the white minority to keep the black majority out of certain areas. Black area people had to carry special papers, passes, or have permissions to live and work in particular areas. Whites opposed intermarriage and non-whites with non-whites, and colored people were also discriminated against, but not as badly as the non-whites. What recently happened because of the coronavirus outbreak, people started hating the Chinese as if it is their fault. Anybody with their skin color, as it is, they used to call them as yellow because their skin used to be yellow. And some places they did not even supply the materials that they needed in shops and all that. And President Donald Trump used to call coronavirus as China virus. The Prohibition of Mixed Marriages Act of 1949 prohibited marriage between persons of different races, and the Immortality Act of 1950 made sexual relations with a person of a different race a criminal offense. The blacks suffered greatly and were even banned from voting at one point. Nelson Mandela became South Africa's first black president in 1994. Mandela ended apartheid. Currently, racial quota laws discriminate against whites in South Africa, with the revelations of the Holocaust as well as worldwide anti-racist efforts ruled ideas about race changed, and more slowly some prejudices about races faded. The civil rights movement tried to liberate persons of African origin from racist, white, supremacists rule in South Africa and the southern USA. In whites were considered to be the supreme. There was a clan called as KKK, Ku Klux Klan, which used to torture the blacks and all that. Blacks could vote in South Africa after a 50-year ban. In some cases, positive discrimination and political correctness have taken the situation to the opposite extreme, leading to accusations in the UK, USA and Australia of reverse racism. That is to say, racism in favor, not against ethnic minorities. Political correctness is a term applied to language, ideas, policies, or behavior seen as seeking to minimize offense to gender, racial, cultural, disabled, aged, or other identity groups. Conversely, the term politically incorrect is used to refer to a language or ideas that may cause offense or that are unconstrained by orthodoxy or good manners. Example, racists and Islamophobes. The growth of the Hispanic population through immigration from Mexico and elsewhere, combined with high birth rates, are a factor in the USA's rising population in the last quarter century. The 2000 census also found Native Americans, Amerindians, at the highest population ever, 4.5 million since the US was founded in 1776. Actually, when Columbus discovered US, only the so-called West Indians were the tribals. These people that migrated from Spain, UK and Australia, they drove them out and took over the land. Actually, it's a place of what do you call West Indians, okay, tribes. Genocide is an international action to destroy people, usually defined as an ethnic, national, racial, or religious group in whole or in part. A term coined by Raphael Lemkin in his 1944 book Axis Rule in Occupied Europe. The hybrid word genocide is a combination of the Greek word genos, meaning race, people, and the Latin suffix "kedo," act of killing. So it's basically killing of based on the race, killing innocent people for no fault of theirs. The United Nations Genocide Convention, which was established in 1948, defines genocide as acts committed with the intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group as such, including the killing of its members, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately imposing living conditions that seek to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, preventing births, or forcibly transferring children out of the group to another group. Examples include the Holocaust, the Armenian genocide, the Greek genocide, the Assyrian genocide, the Serbian genocide, the Guatemalan genocide, the 1971 Bangladesh genocide by the Pakistanis, the Cambodian genocide, and after 1980 the Bosnian genocide, the Anfal genocide, the Darfur genocide, the Rwandan genocide, and the SD genocide. SDs are tribes. The Political Instability Task Force estimated that between 1956 and 2016, a total of 43 genocides took place, causing the death of about 50 million people. In Australia, they used to call the tribals as aborigines. In US also, people that migrate to US are called as aliens, as if they are from outer space. They give a alien registration number. What kind of practice is it? The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, estimated that a further 50 million had been displaced by such episodes of violence up to 2008. Before 1944, various terms including massacre, extermination, and crimes against humanity were used to describe the international systematic killings. In 1944, Winston Churchill, when describing the German invasion of the Soviet Union, spoke of a crime without a name. In 1944, Raphael Lemkin created the word genocide in his book, as I told you before, Axis Rule in Occupied Europe, as mentioned earlier. The book describes the implementation of Nazi policies, Nazis, Germans, during the World War, in occupied Europe and cities. Earlier, mass killings, mass killings. The term described the systematic destruction of a nation or people, especially Poland, and the word was quickly adopted by many in the international community. The word genocide was used in indictments at the Nuremberg trials. In the Nazis, the Holocaust, they used to kill the Poles and burn their bodies, and they used to transport them in trucks, then spread the poison gas inside the truck. Bodies used to pile up one on another because people that have the energy used to climb on top of the dead people so that they can live for some more time. It was so brutal. Ladies, young children, elderly people, so many innocents lost their life. The word genocide was used in indictments at the Nuremberg trials held from 1945, but solely as a description term, not yet as a formal legal term. The so-called Polish genocide trials of Father Grisha and Aman Leopold, both in 1946, were the first trials in which judgments included the term genocide. According to Lemkin, genocide was a coordinated strategy to destroy a group of people, a process that could be accomplished through total annihilation, as well as strategies that eliminate key elements of the group's basic existence, including language, culture, and economic infrastructure. Lemkin defined genocide as follows. Generally speaking, genocide does not necessarily mean the immediate destruction of nation, except when accomplished by mass killings of all members of a nation. It is intended rather to signify a coordinated plan of different actions aiming at the destruction of essential foundations of the life of national groups with the aim of annihilating the groups themselves. It is a kind of a harassment abusing the powers. The objectives of such a plan would be the disintegration of the political and social institutions of culture, language, national feelings, religion, and the economic existence of national groups, and the destruction of the personal security, liberty, health, dignity, and even the lives of the individuals belonging to such groups. The preamble to the 1948 Genocide Convention, CPPCG, notes that instances of genocide have taken place throughout history, but it was not until Lemkin coined the term on the prosecution of perpetrators of the Holocaust is the mass murder of Jews under the German Nazi regime from 1941 until 1945 Holocaust. The Nuremberg trials that the United Nations defined the crime of genocide under international law in the Genocide Convention. Lemkin's lifelong interest in the mass murder of populations in the 20th century was initially in response to the killing of Armenians in 1915 and later to the mass murders in Nazi-controlled Europe. He referred to the Albigensian Crusade as one of the most conclusive cases of genocide in religious history. He dedicated his life to mobilizing the international community to work together to prevent the occurrence of such events. In a 1949 interview, Lemkin said, "I became interested in genocide because it happened so many times. It happened to the Armenians, then after the Armenians, Hitler took action. After the Holocaust, which had been perpetrated by Nazi Germany prior to and during World War II, Lemkin successfully campaigned for the universal acceptance of international laws defining and forbidding genocides. In 1946, the first session of the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution. Actually, the United Nations was formed after World War II, so that there is no more world wars. Just think of the possibility of another war now. It's a bio war now, cyber war, that affirmed that genocide was a crime under international law and enumerated examples of such events, but did not provide a full-length definition of the crime. If there is a third war, all sentient species on this planet will be annihilated within a matter of minutes. In 1948, the UN General Assembly adopted the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, CPPCG, which defined the crime of genocide for the first time. Genocide is a denial of the right of existence of entire human groups, as homicide is the denial of the right to live of individual human beings. Such denial of the right of existence shocks the conscience of the mankind, results in great losses to humanity in the form of cultural and other contributions represented by these human groups, and is contrary to moral law and the spirit and aims of the United Nations. Many instances of such crimes of genocide have occurred when racial, religious, political and other groups have been destroyed entirely or in part. As per UN Resolution 96-1, 11th December 1946, the CPPCG was adopted by the UN General Assembly on 9th December 1948 and came into effect on 12th January 12th January. Resolution 260-2603. It contains an internationally recognized definition of genocide, which has been incorporated into the general national criminal legislation of many countries, and was also adopted by the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Code, which established the International Criminal Code, ICC shortly. Article 2 of the Convention defines genocide as any of the following acts committed with the intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial or religious group. As such, killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to the members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about the physical destruction in whole or in part, that's what I said, harassment, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. The first draft of the convention included political killings, but these provisions were removed in a political and diplomatic compromise following objections from some countries, including the USSR, a permanent United Nations Security Council member. Incitement to genocide is recognized as a separate crime. Incitement is kind of instigating. Separate crime under international law, and an inchoate crime which does not require genocide to have taken place to be prosecutable. Under international law, genocide has two mental elements: the general mental element and the element of specific intent. The general element refers to whether the prohibited acts were committed with intent, knowledge, recklessness or negligence. For most serious international crimes, including genocide, the requirement is that the perpetrator acts with the intent. It is premeditated, basically. The Rome Statute defines intent as meaning to engage in the conduct, and in relation to consequences as meaning to cause that consequence of being aware that it will occur in the ordinary course of events. The specific intent element defines the purpose of committing the acts to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial or religious group as such. The specific intent is a core factor distinguishing genocide from other international crimes such as war crimes or crimes against humanity. In 2007, the European Court of Human Rights, ECHR, noted in its judgment on Georgic versus Germany case that in 1992, the majority of legal scholars took the extreme view that intent to destroy in the CPPCG meant that intended physical, biological destruction of the protected group, and that this was still the majority opinion. Even wild animals are protected. Human beings, we don't have any protection. But the ECHR also noted that the minority took a broader view and did not consider biological physical destruction to be necessary as the intent to destroy a national, racial, religious, or ethnic group was enough to qualify as genocide. In the same judgment, the ECHR reviewed the judgments of several international municipal courts. It noted that the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia and the International Court of Justice has agreed with a narrow interpretation that biological physical destruction was necessary for an act to qualify as genocide. The ECHR also noted that at the time of its judgment, apart from the courts in Germany, which had taken a broad view that there has been few cases of genocide under the other convention states, municipal laws, and that there are no reported cases in which the courts of these states have defined the type of group destruction the perpetrator must have intended in order to be found guilty of genocide. In the case of Wanspor, Rababukom, the German Supreme Court adhered to its previous judgment and did not follow the narrow interpretation of the ICTY and the ICJ. The Genocide Convention establishes 5 prohibited acts that, when committed with the requisite intent, amount to genocide. Although massacre-style killings are the most commonly identified and punished as genocide, the range of violence that is contemplated by the law is significantly broader. The 5 prohibited acts are killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberating in inflicting, these things I have mentioned before, inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. This is something I had mentioned before. The exclusion of social and political groups as targets of genocide in the CPP-CG legal definition has been criticized by some historians and sociologists. According to R.J. Ramal, genocide has 3 different meanings. The ordinary meaning is murder by government of people due to the national, ethnic, racial, or religious group membership. The legal meaning of genocide refers to the international treaty the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, CPP-CG. This also includes non-killings that in the end eliminate the group, such as preventing births or forcibly transferring children out of the group to another group. It's also brutal, inhuman. The generalized meaning of genocide is similar to the ordinary meaning, but also includes government killings of political opponents or otherwise intentional murder. It is to avoid confusion regarding what meaning is intended that Ramal created the term democide, DEMO, for the third meaning, demographic. It is commonly accepted that at least since World War II, genocide has been illegal under customary international law. Having law alone is not enough. It should be strictly enforced and the perpetrators should be punished. International laws are preemptory norm as well as under conventional international law. Guilty should be punished. It should become a lesson for the others. Acts of genocide are generally difficult to establish for prosecution because a chain of accountability must be established. International criminal courts and tribunals function primarily because the states involved are incapable or unwilling to prosecute crimes of this magnitude themselves. Since 2002, the International Criminal Court, shortly ICC, can exercise its jurisdiction if international courts are unwilling or unable to investigate or prosecute genocide, thus being a court of last resort, leaving the primary responsibility to exercise jurisdiction over alleged criminals to individual states. Due to the United Nations concerns over the ICC, the United States prefers to continue to use specially convened international tribunals for such investigations and potential prosecutions. For genocide to happen, there must be certain preconditions. Foremost among them is a national culture that does not place a high value on human life. A totalitarian society with its assumed superior ideology is also a precondition for genocidal acts. In addition, members of the dominant society must perceive their potential victims as less than fully human, as pagans, savages, uncouth barbarians, unbelievers, effete degenerates, ritual outlaws, racial inferiors, class antagonists, counter revolutionaries, and so on. In themselves, these conditions are not enough for the perpetrators to commit genocide. To do that, that is, to commit genocide, the perpetrators need a strong, centralized authority and bureaucratic organization as well as pathological individuals and criminals. Also required is a campaign of vilification and dehumanization of the victims by the perpetrators, who are usually new states or new regimes attempting to impose conformity to a new ideology and its model of society. In 1996, Gregory Stanton, the president of Genocide Watch, presented a briefing paper called The 8 Stages of Genocide at the United Nations Department of State. In it, he suggested that genocide develops in 8 stages that are predictable but are inexorable. Hold on. 1. Classification, symbolization, dehumanization, organization, polarization, preparation, extermination, denial. Framework for understanding racism on 3 levels: institutionalized, personally mediated, and internalized. Institutionalized racism is defined as differential access to the goods, services, and opportunities of society by race. Institutional racism is normative, sometimes legalized, and often manifests as inherited disadvantage. Institutionalized racism manifests itself both in material conditions and in access to power. Personally mediated racism is defined as prejudice and discrimination, where prejudice means differential assumptions about the abilities, motives, and intentions of others according to their race, and discrimination means differential actions toward others according to their race. This is what most people think of when they hear the word racism. Personally mediated racism can be intentional as well as unintentional, and it includes acts of commission as well as acts of omission. Internalized racism is defined as acceptance by members of the stigmatized races of negative messages about their own abilities and intrinsic worth. It is characterized by their not believing in others who look like them and not believing in themselves. It involves accepting limitations to one's own full humanity, including one's spectrum of dreams, one's right to self-determination, and one's range of allowable self-expression. Prejudice is an affective feeling towards a person based on their perceived group membership. The word is often used to refer to a preconceived, usually unfavorable evaluation of another person based on that person's political affiliation, sex, gender, beliefs, values, social class, age, disability, religion, sexuality, race, ethnicity, language, nationality, beauty, occupation, education, criminality, and sport team affiliation are other personal characteristics. Prejudice can also refer to unfounded or pigeonholed beliefs that it may include unreasonable attitude that is unusually resistance to rational influence. Gordon Allport defined prejudice as a feeling favorable or unfavorable toward a person or thing prior to or not based on actual experience. Ostad in 2015 defines prejudice as characterized by a symbolic transfer of a value ladder meaning content onto a socially formed category and then onto individuals who are taken to belong to that category. The resistance to change and overgeneralization. So many genocides have occurred so far, the worst based on death count amongst them as per the records, history, Holocaust during Nazi regime, General Plan OST during World War II in Soviet Union, Holodomor, Ukrainian genocide, Nazi genocide of Poles, Mongol conquest of Western Asia, Cambodian genocide, Kazakh genocide. Spanish and Mongols were very ruthless. Genocide in Bangladesh by Pakistan, Armenian genocide, Indonesian genocide, Rwandan genocide, and Greek genocide. Slavery, discrimination, Genocide, racism, prejudice are altruistic, premeditated crimes. God, the superpower, has created all human beings the same. No differentiation whatsoever in all aspects. Religions, race, community, caste, etc. are created by human beings for their own convenience. Certain people enjoy all the privileges while others suffered in silence if you go by the history. In the modern world, there is so much awareness, and the downtrodden started resisting and fighting for their rights. All of you are aware of Black Lives Matter hashtag protest, which started in USA after the brutal killing of black George Floyd by white police officers and spread like wildfire to European countries. Racism, discrimination, prejudice exists in so many countries in the world even now. So many world leaders fought for the rights of the downtrodden like Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, E.V. Ramasamy, known as EVR or Periyar, Ambedkar. In spite of all that, these social evils exist in some form or the other, especially in countries like India, New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, USA, UK, Middle East, etc. Mahatma Gandhi fought against untouchability and he coined the term Hari Jans. Hari is their god, Vishnu. Jans means sons or daughters, children, which means children of God instead of Dalits or scheduled caste. Transvestites are also given proper recognition in society as third gender besides males and females, lesbians, gays, bisexual and transvestites, LGBT movement, same-sex marriages have become common in the modern era. These are welcome changes. I really wonder when our mother planet would be absolutely free of all these social evils. We can only visualize in our own ideal virtual world as of now. Whether it becomes a reality calls for a drastic change in mindset, and of course it will not happen overnight. All of us have a role to play. Okay, debates, discussions on topics like this can go on forever. Anyhow, let me call it a day. We'll meet again real soon. Rest in peace and harmony. Some of the statements, views expressed are solely mine based on knowledge gained over 6 decades. Always watch these videos with closed captions, subtitles for absolute 100% comprehension as my sincere recommendation zillion times so far. I know I rushed through to complete the presentation within 20 minutes maximum. That's why I say go through the subtitles and closed caption. All my videos are with the subtitles or closed caption. This is a time limit I had set myself to retain the viewer's attention as a norm. I know nowadays I exceed this time limit since I make honest attempts to cover the selected topics more elaborately, including so many intricate, fine details referring to a wide variety of sources, in particular Wikipedia, quite extensively, besides articles and books published recently. Besides, of course, I add my own salt and pepper and masala based on my personal experiences so far in my life and also intuition. Stay at home as much as possible to maintain social distancing attributed to pandemic novel COVID-19 and prolong your lifespan. I don't know how it is going to be in the future. They are saying we are yet to see the worst. Even corona, this is the first wave. They are talking about second wave, third wave, infinite waves. Corona itself. Lead a healthy life. God alone can put a stop to natural or unnatural, maybe bio war or cyber war, and cyber war events like pandemics, which may lead to apocalypse and extinction of all sentient species on Earth. All the best. Peace.